OpenAI raised $122 billion at an $852 billion valuation. I wonder if there's something for unicorns, $1 billion, but is there something they call a $1 trillion company? Is there like an actual name for that? I do wonder.
Kind of like it's got to be Spud or Capybara. Or,
some kind of wild one. Okay, we'll come back to this in the thing. What was interesting to me, okay, so here's an interesting discussion point on this. OpenAI closed the biggest private round in history, so it's record-breaking, while investors quietly flee to Anthropic. So this happened on March 31st, so we're talking literally 2 or 3 days ago. $122 billion funding round confirmed, which was $12 billion more than they wanted to. Post-money valuation, $852 billion. Interestingly, Amazon's put in $50 billion, with 35 of that billion contingent upon IPO or reaching AGI. Nvidia's thrown in $30 billion, SoftBank's collab with $30 billion, $3 billion from retail investors, 900 million weekly ChatGPT users, 50 million paying subscribers, 2 billion a month in revenue. So I wonder what that
is that a guarantee? To be clear, you said 35% contingent on AGI?
Yeah. No, 35. So 70% of the investment is contingent upon AGI or an IPO.
What? Oh, that's so interesting. So wait, like it's contingent on them reaching artificial general intelligence.
Yeah. Or the IPO.
What happens if they don't reach it? What? They just don't.
I
get
think
money?
They can do either.
Like,
so they've said, look, we're going to give you, how much was it now? We're going to give you $15 billion today. Take that to the bank. And then we've got an additional $35 billion. And if you either IPO or you reach AGI, either on those two events, we're going to give you the rest of $35 billion based on what I'm reading.
What's the like benchmark though? Like how do they know? I mean, 3-letter acronyms, AGI, IPO, sure, but like when it finishes some AGI test?
Yeah. I mean, like they need to check our last episode. I think we defined it in the week 2 episodes ago. If they're unsure, they can pull it up in the court documents.
Yeah, they can pull it up.
It's as good as a dictionary definition, actually. So
Nick and Jack 2026.
That's it. Yeah, according to Nick and Jack in 2026, AGI is defined as like, you go and get a more accurate definition than that. One interesting point just to throw out there, just for some context, is that investors have deployed $2 billion into Anthropic on the secondary market in the same value. So that's pretty crazy, dude. You think about OpenAI's closed $122 billion, Anthropic has closed Dude, you can do a lot with $120 billion. Do you know what I mean? That's an insane amount of stuff. Round data shows Anthropic, it wins now 70% of head-to-head matchups against OpenAI, and OpenAI's enterprise API market share has dropped from 50% to 25%. ChatGPT's app market share fell from 69% to 45%. The round is historic, but the underlying trend is brutal.
Damn. Well, the $122 billion is obviously a massive investment, that, and then all the data centers and training centers that they're spinning up here. That means that like the models 2 generations down are going to be incredible. You know what I mean? Because it takes a long time for that to come up. But I guess the question that they really need to answer is like, is that enough to beat Anthropic's RSI lead, like recursive self-improvement? If their models are so far ahead and they're now being used to design the next generation of models, intelligences, and also do strategic decision-making because they're so intelligent, so much more intelligent than the average person. Like, despite the fact that they might be capital poor relative to $122 billion of OpenAI that makes them capital rich, like that intelligence could very quickly and easily bootstrap up to some form of crazy market share, which lets them win. Because, you know, it's like the first person to hit that like AGI mark wins, right? Because then they design the better models that are even more efficient, even if they have less compute and stuff like that. That might be sufficient. I don't know.
No, you're right. The first person to cross the finish line, wherever we define that, is the winner. Because the recursive improvement loop is just you cannot catch up with it. That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
That's why Meta's so bullish on like crazy salaries. It seems like one of the best ways you could make a lot of money is if you could just find some core component in the AI supply chain and work at NVIDIA. Like that's a really interesting job application for people. Like we spend a lot of time thinking about the so what side of the equation. Like, okay, what does this mean in consumer applications, business applications? But actually there's a lot of hardware connecting these things together, the clusters of GPUs. There's a whole lot of like technical, I want to say nerd work, but a lot of like technical, you know, like side behind the Windows laptop stuff going on that you could be doing. So yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to me. I think, here's the thing, hundreds of billions of dollars plus laser focus is great. And if there's one thing we've learned, is that the average AI user can be fickle with the models they're using. Like the second that it's economical or high performance, they switch. So there is not yet a strong enough, I think, moat. Ethics will get you so far, but honestly, dude, do you know what I had a thought about actually? I was in a coffee shop the other day, and like one of the biggest trends we had in UK was ethically sourced. I was like, what the hell does that mean? It's ethically sourced coffee. So okay, it makes me feel good when I'm buying it. But what if you had a brand that was unethically sourced and was
That would be sick.
that would be crazy. And they said, look, dude, we're not paying our farmers. We're not. And and as a consequence of that, this is 20% cheaper. And it was like an unethical burger. Like, and it was like, like exploitation at every stage of the supply chain. Complete exploitation, even down to the service. Like
paying your farmers, that's nerd work.
can you imagine that we're like, but like if they owned it and said, look, yeah, we are a terrible company. And we acknowledge that. We have no ethics. We have no scruples. But we
imagine if Google's thing was just do evil.
do evil things. Oh, what if it was like, we would love to get richer? And
Well, honestly, their investment would be through the roof, because isn't that the whole point of companies, that nobody says that
there is
way?
an honesty play there, right? Which is like, look, we don't wish you harm, but we're not bending over backwards to make your life better. Like if they just said that and they were like, look, realistically, priority 1 is that we make money. Priority 2 is that you get a great product, but we just want to make more money. Okay, so you've seen Game of Thrones, right? You know Bronn, the
Yeah.
sellsword. He became like, he was
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
everything he does is motivated by self-interest. I caught a video when when Tyrion's got to fight the mountain, and he brings in Bronn. He's like, dude, I got to fight this like mountain. Can you help me out? He's like, dude, I already got gold. Like, when have you risked your life for me? And I was like, actually, he's an interesting character because everything he does is in his self-interest. And he's a sellsword, right? Whoever been given the biggest bag of gold, he'll bend the knee to and do what he wants to do. But yet he's loved. And I think that there's something about honesty and transparency and intentionality that people respect. Like, they will tolerate your selfishness if you are competent and honest. Because it's like, it's a negative quality, but you at least understand their motivations. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, okay, they're interested in making, and there's some weird level of psychological acceptance to that actually works. Isn't that interesting?